Matchmaking for the old maid, Granny Riprock and the reluctant suitor. The re-emergence of Granny's long-standing concern for Ellie Mae's marital prospects supplies the composite Season 4 narrative with one of its most characteristic and enduring emotional threads. While the bird-watching expedition unfolds with its specialized enthusiasms and the family's characteristic misreadings, Granny returns with quiet insistence to a more domestic anxiety. Ellie Mae remains unmarried, a condition the older woman regards as both unnatural and urgently correctable. The sequence that develops from this concern Jed's reluctant agreement to intervene, the reappearance of the movie star Riprock, Mr. Drysdale's calculated pressure upon the reluctant suitor, and the tangled negotiations that follow constitutes a sustained exploration of familial duty, romantic reluctance, and the comic collision between Hollywood's self-interest and Clampett directness. Granny's opening inquiry is delivered with the plain urgency that defines her approach to family matters. "Did you put it to him about the fella?" she asks Jed. When clarification is required, she supplies it without embellishment. "The fella Ellie ain't got." The phrasing is pure Irene Ryan, economical, definitive, and rooted in the assumption that an unmarried young woman of Ellie Mae's age and qualities represents a problem requiring active solution. Jed's defensive response, that he has delayed the conversation because Joe wasn't feeling good, is met with the sharp observation that Ellie's been waiting 4 years. The temporal precision underscores both the duration of Granny's concern and her refusal to allow further postponement. In the moral economy of the Hills as Granny understands it, a young woman of marriageable age should not remain single indefinitely, and the responsibility for correcting the situation rests with the male head of the household. The suggestion that Jed bring back one of the old ones, specifically that big handsome movie star Riprock, reintroduces a character whose previous entanglement with the family has already demonstrated both romantic possibility and significant complication. Granny's recollection that Ellie liked him a heap and he liked Ellie is offered as sufficient evidence that the match should be revived. Her further instruction, "Get after him, twist his arm a bit," reveals the practical, even forceful approach she considers appropriate to the task. Jed's mild resistance, expressed in the hope that he would not want to push the matter too hard, is noted but not permitted to alter the fundamental direction of the plan. The series allows Granny's matchmaking impulse to stand as both comic and genuinely caring, a dual quality that has defined the character's interventions across multiple seasons. The actual reappearance of Riprock is staged through the institutional filter of Mr. Drysdale's office, a setting that immediately situates the romantic negotiation within the larger power dynamics of the Clampett fortune. The star's arrival produces the expected flutter of recognition from Miss Hathaway, who requests an autograph with the flustered enthusiasm of a dedicated follower of Hollywood glamour. Dash's insistence upon the use of his professional name rather than his legal one, Homer Noodleman of Peoria, Illinois, establishes the carefully maintained distance between public persona and private identity that the character must continually police. Drysdale's possession of the contract and his casual revelation that the studio retains the right to place the actor in a television series supplies the banker with the leverage he will shortly employ. The conversation that follows is a masterclass in institutional pressure applied to personal ends. Drysdale's inquiry about Dash's previous relationship with Ellie Mae is met with the actor's frank admission of retreat. "Those people play with guns," he explains. The specific memory of Granny waiting up with a double-barreled shotgun across her lap after a date that ended at 8:30 is offered as sufficient justification for permanent withdrawal. The detail is both comic and revealing. In Dash's urban professional world, the presence of a shotgun-wielding elder constitutes an intolerable threat. In the Clampett world, it constitutes ordinary parental vigilance. The gap between the two interpretations is absolute, and that gap is the source of both the humor and the obstacle to any renewed courtship. Drysdale's response is swift and calculated. The threat of assignment to a television series titled Crabman, complete with a crab outfit with these big claws and a crabmobile, is deployed with the precision of a man who understands the particular horrors that would register most strongly with a performer protective of his cinematic image. The overexposure of television, the indignity of the costume, and the loss of motion picture prestige are invoked as the certain consequences of continued resistance. Dash's rapid capitulation, marked by his request to use the telephone to call Mr. clamp it and ask permission to see Ellie Mae confirms the effectiveness of the pressure. The transformation from reluctant former suitor to cooperative candidate is instantaneous and entirely motivated by professional self-preservation rather than romantic inclination. The deeper resonance of the sequence lies in its portrait of matchmaking as an activity conducted across incompatible systems of value. Granny's approach is direct, familial, and rooted in the assumption that suitable partners can be identified and secured through persistent effort. Drysdale's approach is instrumental, leveraging contractual power to produce a result that will satisfy the Clampetts and thereby protect the banking relationship. Dash's position is purely defensive, aimed at the preservation of his career and the avoidance of further contact with a family he regards as dangerously unpredictable. Ellie Mae herself remains largely outside the negotiations, her own preferences secondary to the plans being made on her behalf. The series does not resolve these incompatible approaches into a single coherent strategy. It simply allows them to operate simultaneously, generating comedy from their collision and from the gap between intention and likely outcome. In the cultural context of the mid-1960s, the figure of the reluctant celebrity suitor carried particular comic potential. Hollywood's leading men were publicly associated with romantic availability and private complication, and the series had already established Riprock as a character whose professional persona and personal caution existed in productive tension. The threat of television, still regarded by many film performers as a reduction in status, provides Drysdale with a form of leverage that would have registered clearly with contemporary audiences. The further specificity of the Crabman concept, with its visual absurdity and its capitalization on the period's interest in comic strip superheroes, extends the satire into the realm of programming trends without requiring extensive exposition. The performances in the sequence operate with the sharp precision the material demands. Irene Ryan's Granny conveys the full weight of familial concern without softening the character's fundamental directness. Her instructions to Jed are commands rather than suggestions. Buddy Ebsen's Jed registers both the obligation to act and the mild reluctance of a man who prefers less forceful methods. Raymond Bailey's Mr. Drysdale deploys the contractual threat with the calm satisfaction of a banker who has identified the precise point of vulnerability. The portrayal of Riprock must balance the polished surface of the Hollywood star with the genuine alarm of a man who has previously encountered Granny's shotgun and has no desire to repeat the experience. The supporting presence of Miss Hathaway, flustered by the star's proximity yet professionally attentive to Drysdale's maneuvers, further situates the negotiation within the everyday operations of the bank. As the sequence draws toward its conclusion, the essential arrangements have been made. Granny's demand for action has been acknowledged. Riprock has been compelled into renewed availability through the threat of televised crustacean transformation. Jed has been positioned as the intermediary who will manage the practical details of the courtship. Ellie Mae remains unaware of the full extent of the planning conducted on her behalf. The stage is set for the further complications that will arise when the reluctant suitor actually re-enters the Clampett household and when the competing claims of birdwatching, family expectation and professional self-preservation must be navigated in real time. In the careful construction of this matchmaking movement, the Beverly Hillbillies once again demonstrates its gift for extracting sustained comedy from the gap between what families desire for their members and what those members, or the candidates proposed for them, are prepared to accept. The enduring appeal of the material lies in its refusal to simplify the motives of any participant. Granny's concern is genuine even if her methods are forceful. Drysdale's intervention is self-interested, yet it is also directed toward a result that would please the Clampetts. Dash's reluctance is self-protective, yet it is rooted in a specific and memorable encounter with the family's particular form of vigilance. Ellie Mae's relative absence from the negotiations is itself a form of commentary on the degree to which her marital future is treated as a family rather than an individual matter. The series holds all of these perspectives in view simultaneously, allowing the audience to recognize both the humor and the humanity of each position. In an era of television that sometimes preferred more streamlined romantic plotting, the Beverly Hillbillies maintained its commitment to the comedy of competing intentions, the humor of institutional leverage applied to personal ends, and the quiet affirmation that even the most carefully arranged courtships remain subject to the unpredictable realities of the Clampett household and the equally unpredictable preferences of the young woman at their center,